Greetings, my brothers and sisters of all faiths, ideologies, from all parts of the world. I pray that Allah sends His blessings, peace, mercy upon all of us and upon all of our loved ones. And we begin in the name of God, the Lord, the Cherisher, the Holy Father, the Holy High One, and we ask Him to send His blessings upon all of His messengers from amongst mankind, such as Muhammad, such as Jesus, such as Moses, such as David, such as Solomon, such as Elijah, such as Saul, such as Moses, such as Abraham, such as Ishmael, such as Isaac, such as Jacob, such as Joseph. And we ask Allah to also extend His blessings and peace upon all of His angels, the archangels, especially amongst those Gabriel, also known as Jibril, Michael, also known as Mikael, and Israfil. We don't have a translation for Israfil. So, just a fun fact before we dive in deep. The angel Gabriel, he was the first creation after God created the heavens and the earth, and of course, paradise and hellfire. Gabriel was responsible for transmitting divine revelation from God to mankind, the messengers from mankind. He's also the angel responsible for war. The other angel is Michael or Mikael. He is responsible for the world's sustenance, rainfall, agriculture, growth of plants, etc. etc. Then we have Israfil. He is the angel closest to God in terms of nearness, in terms of like proximity to God. He is the largest of the angels, besides the angels who are the bearers of the throne. No, we don't know their names. We don't know how many there are. But speaking of Israfil, some narrations say that on his forehead is written the entire Quran, and he is in a position waiting with the trumpet in his mouth and his hand on the trumpet, waiting for God's command to indicate to him that blow that shit, day of judgment, here we come. And whenever God wants to instruct any of the angels for his commands, he nudges Israfil. Israfil rings a bell, all the angels come, he tells them their duties. So Gabriel came to Moses, Gabriel came to Jesus, Gabriel came to Abraham, he came to all of the messengers. And fun fact, of course, when you are chosen as a messenger, of course, not any of us, I'm talking about the messengers, they see the unseen, right? They see the angel, the angel comes to them, talks to them in his original form, in the human form. So the Prophet Muhammad, of course, saw Gabriel when the first revelation was revealed, which we'll come to slowly but surely. And he saw Mikael in his original form, and he asked Gabriel, Gabriel and Muhammad were tight. They were like friends, basically, right? And they used to communicate. They used to like chill, after hours, after the duty was fulfilled by Gabriel to transmit the message. But anyway, regarding Mikael, the Prophet once asked Gabriel, I see, you and the other angels, sometimes you smile, sometimes you're in a good mood, but I always see Mikael, he's always in like a strict, stern mood. He never smiles, he's never happy. So Gabriel replied, Mikael has not smiled or been happy since the day he saw hellfire. And regarding Israfil, once the Prophet was with Gabriel, and Gabriel suddenly looked up and he was scared. Imagine, Gabriel was scared. Gabriel is such an angel that when he appeared in his original form, he covered the entire horizon. He has, some narrations say, 900 wings. The span of one wing is equal to the entire sky that we see. And from his wings are dropping rubies, emeralds, gems, pearls, everything. So Gabriel is a big dude. He's a big man. Not a man, of course, but you know what I mean. And he is scared, and he's looking up, and he's terrified. So, Muhammad Rasulullah, he asked him, "Oh Gabriel, what is terrifying you?" He says that this angel he has one duty, and his duty is to blow the trumpet. And I see him coming down. Is this a day of judgment? And imagine, this is Gabriel who's scared of the day of judgment, and he is an angel. He is pre-programmed to obey all of God's command, and he has fulfilled all of his duties, and he is scared of the day of judgment. And you and I, we are not obeying Allah at all or following any of his commands, and we think, काम हो जाएगा, we'll get through it, there's no hereafter, we'll be fine. Even if there is a hereafter, if we have goodness in this world, alhamdulillah, we are God has given us good sustenance, we wear good clothes, we have good food, we have society, we have respect in society. So even in the day of judgment, God will favor us. That's not the case. That's not the case at all. Okay. Anyway, back to the story. Then we start inshallah. So he looks up at the sky and he says, "This angel has a specific duty. That's to blow the trumpet. Why is he here?" So he got scared. Anyway, Israfil came down. So the first time he's come down to the earth. Okay, and he came through a gate of heaven which has never been opened before. So it's reserved for this dude basically. So he comes down and he comes down and he asks Muhammad one question: would you like to be a king or would you like to be a Abd? Abdullah. We say Abdullah is in the name, that means Abd Allah, the servant of God. So he asked, do you want to be a king or do you want to be Abdullah? So Gibreel, he's looking at Muhammad and Jibreel is behind them and he's like indicating to the Prophet the first one, the second option, like be the Abd. And of course, Prophet Muhammad was going to choose that anyway. But he said, okay, Gabriel, why were you, why are you so scared? Relax, chill. And then Israfil replied, yes, that's the response I expected of you. And then he went back into paradise. He went back into heaven to do his duties. Anyway, sorry for taking 6 minutes. It was an interesting topic. So before we begin, I ask Allah to expand my breast for me, make easy my task for me, and untie the knot on my tongue so that you may understand me. Small caveat, we're taking another transgression. This is the prayer that Moses uttered when God commanded him on Mount Tur in the Sinai Peninsula to go to Pharaoh and convey the message. Imagine this is Moses, one of the greatest messengers. We clearly see that his story is repeated. Different aspects of his story are narrated. He is the only prophet after Yusuf alayhi salam, whose story from his childhood till his adulthood is given in chronological order. So there's an entire surah called Surah Yusuf, Surah Joseph, that talks about one surah, the entire history of Joseph and his family. Joseph is the son of Jacob, Jacob is the son of Isaac, Isaac is the son of Abraham. Okay, so these are important figures that you need to know about. And the Bani Israel, the children of Israel, are actually the children of Jacob. Joseph being the actual son of Jacob. So Bani Israel is descended from the 12 children of Jacob. Joseph being the one who was chosen as a prophet, basically. But anyway, so Moses' story is repeated in the Quran from time to time again in different parts. Different narratives are given. Different parts of the story are given. But anyway, imagine this is the great messenger of God, and he is saying that expand my breast from me. What does that mean? Like anxiety, when you feel anxious, like for example, as I mentioned, I have a speech impediment. Right now, alhamdulillah, I'm speaking fluently. Yesterday, I was not, as you are aware. When I have to like talk publicly or present something, I get like anxiety. I feel like my chest is tightening, so I have to take deep breaths, even though I look like a weirdo while doing it. But it is something I need to do. Otherwise, I'll just start talking like that basically. So this is Moses, okay, and he is saying, my Lord, expand my breast for me, make easy my task for me. He is not saying, oh, I'm the messenger of God now, I'm the king, I can do anything. No, he's saying, God, make it easy for me, right? Make it easy for me. And untie the knot on my tongue so that Pharaoh, they may understand me, like Pharaoh and his people and everybody else. So we begin with, of course, the same prayer, and let's dive deep. Beautiful part of the Quran, Surah Baqarah, continuing with verse 30 onwards. The Quran says, and when your Lord said to the angels, I am placing a deputy on the earth, the angel said, will you place in it one who will sow corruption in it and shed blood while we sit here celebrating your praise and extolling your glory? He said, surely I know what you do not know. So I will translate some of the Arabic words. So وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ الْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَائِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. That means God is saying that I am appointing Khalifa. If you know Turkish history or the Khilafat movement and Khalifa means a representative, a viceroy. So my dear friends who are from the Indo-Pak, Bangladesh subcontinent, when the British took over us, like they had their kings and queens in Britain, but they had a viceroy, a vice regent who was in the subcontinent calling the shots for them, like representing the crown of England in the subcontinent. Okay, so God is saying to the angels, I am placing a Khalifa, a representative, my viceroy on the earth. The angel said, will you place in it one who will sow corruption, yufsidu fiha, and one who will shed blood, but yasfiku dimma. Damma means blood in Arabic, okay, So understand this. This is a very important point. Okay, angels are pre-programmed to obey all of God's commands. Okay, they don't have the power of moral choice, free will. The jinn kind and mankind do. I'm going to refrain talking about the jinn kind right now because they will be introduced very soon. Okay, and then there's an entire surah called Surah Al Jinn. So I will then talk about the jinns over there. Okay, so my brothers and sisters in Pakistan, especially my brother Zafir, I don't know if you're listening to this, but if you are, I love you, bro. You're scared of the jinns, but you don't need to be scared of them. You need to be scared of Allah. Okay, all of us need to be scared of Allah. I'm not saying you only, okay? But anyway. So the angels who are pre-programmed to obey God's command, okay? They don't do small talk with God. They're always fearful of God. In the latest surah, we'll see that the sad story is that Prophet Muhammad, he asked Gabriel, why don't you come more often? Why don't you come so we can chill and talk? Why do you always have to come for business? Business meaning divine revelation, right? So Allah then of course is Allah talking in the Quran, not the angels. So Allah quotes the angels saying that the angels say that we are not allowed to come down to the earth except when Allah permits us to do, and we only come to do His bidding. And all of us in the gathering of Allah, whatever it is, you can't imagine it. But the angels say that all of us know our particular spots, and we don't move from there, we don't deviate from there, and we are there glorifying Allah throughout 24/7, and whatever He says, we do it. So worshipping God does not mean, as I said, standing up and praying. It means fulfilling God's commands. Like He instructs you, you fulfill it. You are abd. As I mentioned, you tell your servant, cook me biryani. He cooks it. He's abd. He fulfills his duty. If he says, go F yourself, I'm quitting, I'm not working for you anymore, that's not an abd, right? That's a rebellious human being. But anyway, yeah, so the angels are pre-programmed to obey God, and they are saying, will you place in it one who will sow corruption in it and shed blood while we celebrate your praise and extol your glory? Two questions can be asked here. Number one, how the hell do the angels know that mankind will sow corruption in the earth and they will shed blood, right? God is saying, I am placing a deputy. He's not saying that, I've created Adam, his progeny in the earth, and 10 years from now, let's do like a evaluation of how mankind is doing. That's not what's going on here, okay? Before creating He's giving the angels a heads up, your homies, I'm creating mankind. I'm not asking for your opinion, but the angels still, they give their opinion. They will sow corruption in the earth and shed blood. Now, two questions arise. First question we answer. Second question: how did they know this would happen? Like the angels don't have any knowledge. Like people who worship angels, like the pagan Arabs did. Like angels are just they're like servants of God. Whatever God tells them to do, they do. Whatever God gives them on knowledge, they do. They're not like big daddies. They don't call the shots. So the angels should not have known this, right? Technically speaking, right? Because this is the unseen. Angels don't know the unseen. But here's the point of I'm telling you this. So before the creation of man was created jinn, okay, jinn kind. So initially jinn were created, and they were sent onto the earth, and they received divine revelation also because they had the power of moral choice. Whenever there is a power of moral choice, it's God's duty to send down the guidance. So on the day of judgment, those who have moral choice can't say that you never sent the guidance, so how can you judge us now? So God makes sure He sends the guidance time and time again. Different people, different jinns, whatever, different times, eras of the world. So the angels observe the jinn, right? This is what the jinn did. God created them to worship Him, to represent Him on the earth, and they, after some time, they started, as the word says, sowing corruption and shedding blood. Now, of course, we don't know if jinns have freaking blood, like the red blood that we have, hemoglobin, white blood cells, platelets. That's not important. The point being, sowing corruption and violence, like killing each other and killing animals, whatever, stuff like that. And of course, now we're going to introduce Iblis, Shaitan, also known as Azazel or Azazel. He is not a fallen angel, he is a jinn kind. Okay, as Surah Al Araf, which will come later, which clearly says, Iblis was amongst the jinn. So you would think, how in the world did the jinn, meaning a creation of the earth, come to heaven and chill with the angels and chill with God, stuff like that? So the of course you and I weren't there, and of course, but there are narrations from the Prophet, and of course from the Israeli Rawaya. That means the stories of Bani Israel, like their traditions, their narration and stuff like that. So they mentioned that when God created, as I mentioned, the jinn, put them on the earth, there was a time when they were like, good lads. They worship God, they obeyed God, just like mankind, as we'll see. Like when the first creation was made, Adam, then his offspring, they all worship God. There was no polytheism, there was no shirk, there was no bloodshed, there was no intoxication, there was no everything that is wrong in the world. It wasn't there in the beginning. So So Azazel was, the most pious, the most upright, the most God conscious. Like he was beautiful in his worship of God. Imagine this: the angels who are literally created to worship God said to God, of course the angels can see, they were with Allah, okay, they are from the realm of the unseen, so they can see us when we can't see them, right? So the angel said, this creation that you have created, this jinn, this Azazel guy, he really knows how to worship you. He is our role model. So why don't you, bring him up to paradise so we can copy him in worshiping you? Imagine, Azazel was the most devout worshipper of God. The angels who were created to worship God said, he's our role model, we want to follow him, so for our sake, bring him up to paradise, bring him up to heaven so we can learn from him, we can worship him, worship with him, not worship him, right? So hence Azazel was brought up to heaven. Okay, Azazel was brought into heaven. There's also, another narration, that when the jinn kind were really transgressing, they were really, doing all sorts of wrong things. They had transgressed. Azazel was the only one who was not doing this. So God, chose him as a leader, and he sent an army of angels with him, and he defeated all of the jinn kind. And when they were on the earth, on the mainland, he, with the angels' help, he led the angels in war against his own nation, against his own people, because he believed in God, and the other jinn stopped doing that. So they were inhabiting the mainland, and then he moved them, when you besiege someone, when you destroy them, they retreat, right? So they retreated from the mainland, and they were shoved into the forest areas or the islands and the waters. So you must have noticed, you must have heard that people go to lost islands, and they go to forests, and they hear weird shit. They feel uncomfortable, they get possessed, stuff like that. That's the reasoning here, right? The jinns were first the dominant creation of earth, as in they were inhabiting the mainland like we do. But then when they transgressed, Allah sent Azazel with the angels, and he told them to fuck off and to go to the outskirts, live in the isolated lands. And jinns are real, okay? There's no need to fear them. You need to fear Allah. That's what's more important, okay? But yeah, so then Azazel was brought into paradise, and he was God's favorite, on the earth, also in heaven. Imagine this. I'm talking about Shaitan here, okay? I'm talking about Iblis. Iblis was a title given to him after he did whatever he did, which is coming up right now. I'm not gonna give you a spoiler. We'll read what the Quran has to say, and then I will give my 2 cents. So Azazel was brought into heaven, and the ironic part is he was in charge of paradise. Now there's an angel, his name is called Rizwan. He is the angel of paradise. As the angel, the angel of paradise means the guardian, the overlooker, the preparer, stuff like that. And there's an angel, the warden over hell. His name is Malik, and he is very, very stern. He's not to be messed with. Okay, that dude is stone cold, Steve Austin. Okay, that is him. But anyway, back to the story now, back to the Quran, okay? So the angel said, will you place in it one who will sow corruption in it and shed blood, while we sit here and celebrate your praise and extol your glory? Allah said, surely I know what you do not know. What does this mean? He is telling the angels, shut up, don't make these vile claims. Sure, you have evidence of my past creation, the jinn kind sowing corruption in the earth and shedding blood, but don't make claims right now. You don't know anything, shut up. That's what he's trying to say, basically. Next verse, very, very important verse, okay? And the next verse goes, and he, meaning Allah, taught Adam, the names, all of them. Let me read the verse in Arabic. وَأَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. Asma means name. When you say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, so Bisma, like in the name of Allah. So Asma means name, okay? So Allama means taught. So he taught Adam the names. Kullaha means absolutely everything. That's what it means, okay? Kullaha means everything. So taught he, I'm translating the way, it makes no sense in terms of English, but I'm translating the Arabic word in English, so it may sound crazy. I'll just, show you what I'm talking about. If you can see this word, the sequence is وَأَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. So the literal translation is going to be, taught we Adam names of everything. That's the literal translation, okay? Summa, then he, meaning Allah, then presented them. The word in English translation is them. So he presented the names of all things to the angels and said, "Tell me the names of these if you speak the truth." So Wakala Ambiyuni mean tell me, narrate to me, educate me regarding these names, regarding these things, if you are those who are truthful. You were being big daddies right now, questioning me, saying, okay, we are here in paradise, glorifying you, and you're creating this new creation who's going to shed blood and sow corruption and shed blood. So Allah said, बताता हूँ बेटा, अभी बताता हूँ मैं. So he said, I will tell you guys. So Allah then came up with a scheme. So he taught Adam the names, all of them. Some of the scholars say, he told them, this is a tree, this is a forest, this is the food, this is a cow. Come on, that's not what he's trying to say. I understand human knowledge. Human knowledge is, if you think about it, if you really go into the basics, human knowledge is characterized by the ability to identify, to characterize, and to define things, to give them titles, to give them names. Especially, we give everything definitions, right? Like science is a series of definitions. What is a gas, right? It's a series of particles separated in space, right? What is solids? Is atoms, particles stuck together, right? And literally in medicine, we have definitions like what is septic shock, for example, or the definition of whatever, like heart failure, or what's the definition of myocardial infarction, or what's the definition of space and time, stuff like that. So if you really think about it, it's still a hard concept to grasp over. And I'm not saying I'm the smartest person on planet Earth. Maybe I'm misunderstanding this. It could be that God's talking about names. He brought Adam. He's like, that's a tree, that's a bear, that's water, that's fire. Sure, but that sounds like that sounds like baby stuff. That's not what God is saying. So God inherently in the human psyche, in the human mind, we have this ability, though it's dormant. It requires education, it requires refining, honing, education, awareness, and God's help, of course. And it's inherent, it's dormant within all of us, like to be able to, number one, like gain knowledge. And knowledge is, as I mentioned, if you really think about it, it's like the ability to give accurate, precise definitions, to characterize things, identify them, to separate them from two other things, right? Like, I don't know how to give an example right now. My mind is not working. If I think about it, I will come back to this. But he taught Adam the names, all of them. Meaning he taught Adam. It wasn't like like a TED talk, or it wasn't like a PowerPoint lecture where he taught him absolutely everything. So Adam was like like Socrates on day one. That's not what he's saying. He's saying he taught Adam, meaning mankind, the first creation, in their psyche. He created in them the ability to reason critically, to memorize things, to apply that critical reasoning, to to convert the abstract into the definable. That's what knowledge actually is, right? Like converting something abstract, which cannot be, you can't point a finger to it or label it or pin it down, but mankind is able to do that. We convert the abstract into the definable, the observable, the measurable. I hope that makes sense. Okay, I really hope that makes sense. So then he presented these, these definitions, or the ability to critical reasoning, to the angels and said, "You were being big heroes. Now tell me these things. Tell me tell me about these things if you are truthful." So the angel said, "Kalu" means they said, "Subhanaka la ilm," meaning glory be to you. We have no knowledge but what you have taught us. Indeed, you alone are the all-knowing, all-wise. So now we started with the Quran. So in many places, God will end a verse with mentioning two of his attributes. They are usually Azizul Hakim, which means almighty, all wise. Alimul Hakim, meaning he is all knowledgeable, Hakim. But I'll point this out to you. So in the initial, when you read the Quran for the first 2 or 3 times, you'll be like, what is this for? Why is this? But once you start reading the Quran again and again and start pondering over it, it's like God is like like the previous verses preceding this, it's like a punchline. Okay, it's like, okay, Allah is the all-knowing, all-wise, meaning that at this point I don't expect you to understand this, so I will just drop this topic right now. Okay, so let's read the commentary on these two verses, the three verses actually. So so verse 30, when I mentioned when Allah was creating the vice, when putting the viceroy, and the angel said, the corruption and bloodshed thingy. So it's a big paragraph. Okay, so bear with me. Let's read it. Read it in commentary now. Okay. So the story of the creation of Adam and Eve and the expulsion from the garden is one of the most important themes of the Quran. Various aspects of it have been taken up later, and here we are introduced to the idea that Adam and his descendants have a special place in the creation of Allah. Allah says to the angels, I am about to set on the earth a deputy, this being Adam, who you see before you, who will act as my viceroy there. The angels, normally completely submissive to the will of Allah, are somewhat puzzled. They seem to know something about human nature which, in their opinion, makes man unfit to be given this high status. Allah demonstrates to them, however, man's intellectual excellence and capacity for spiritual development. Upon his command, then, the angels bow to Adam. We'll get to it. Note, man is a flawed creature, endowed with appetites which, when undisciplined, drive him towards evil and rebellion against his Lord. These uncontrolled appetites are the tools of Iblis, aka Satan, aka Azazel, who makes his first appearance in these verses. We'll come to it. Subsequent passages will show the nature of the lures thrown out by Satan. It has been made clear in the Quran that Satan has been permitted by Allah to invite mankind to perdition, destruction. He and his armies, which include devils among mankind, and all their machinations, like basically against the human race, are all parts of the design of Allah for the spiritual growth of man. Man has been given the power of moral choice, which the angels do not have. If he succeeds in rising above the lower part of his nature, he achieves a stature which is beyond the angels. Hence, they prostrated to Adam. We will come to it. So, whenever I look at the camera, it's me talking. Whenever I look at the screen, it's either the Quran, which I'll mention, or the commentary. And this is, of course, not a hard and fast rule, but 90% of the time, that'll be an accurate rule to follow. Okay. So, if he follows Satan, he becomes lower than the beasts. The angels said, will, the second part of the verse, extolling your glory. So the commentary for this verse is, the angels express surprise that when obedient, adoring beings like them already existed, a race should be put on the earth which was capable of corruption and bloodshed. They were, of course, not being critical of the divine decree, but their surprise here is nevertheless most remarkable. How could they have possibly known that human beings collectively would turn out to be cruel, quarrelsome, and destructive? To make such a prediction, they should have had some advanced knowledge of human character. Many scholars believe on the basis of certain reports of the companions that it was Allah Himself who had informed the angels on this occasion as to how man would behave on the earth. I don't think that's likely, okay? But here's the commentary, we'll follow it. Another strongly held school of thought maintains that the angels had been disillusioned by the conduct of the jinn, who had been created before mankind, and who were capable of moral choice, and therefore of sin and corruption. According to this view, what the angels were inquiring from Allah in effect was that since, in the case of the jinn, moral choice had led to disorder and evil doing, would not this new, morally culpable race, with its powerful mandate to rule the earth, create even more trouble? We have given below one possibility of how the angels may have come by their foreknowledge. It should be clearly borne in mind, however, that whatever follows here is just a speculation. There are, as we have mentioned above, other reasonable resolutions of the problem, quite different from the one which we have given. In reality, this is one of the mysteries of the Quran of which we have very little knowledge. Allah alone knows the truth of the matter. The angels may have been misled by what they had seen of physical evolution, one brutish hominid race following another, to believe that Adam, who resembled them physically, would similarly be dominated by animal instincts. Unknown to them, however, the being who now stood before them, aka Adam, was different from all animal creation in two fundamental ways. The first was the possession of the powerful concept-forming intellect, without which human language, technology, social structures, and civilization would not have been possible. Secondly, before Adam could become the deputy of Allah on earth, he had to be endowed with a quality which is not directly mentioned here, but has been indicated elsewhere in the Quran. That is, Allah breathed of His Spirit into him, like breathed of His Spirit into him. Without the divine spark, the ruh, the spirit, man's mental gifts would have been morally sterile. He would not have been able to receive the revelation of Allah, neither would he have been guided in his bewildered existence upon earth, and nor could he have aspired to be deputy of Allah in the world. End of commentary for that verse. And the commentary for the verse about he taught Adam the names of all things as I just mentioned previously. So the commentary goes: the angels had presumed that the new being Adam would predominantly be a creature who would spread disorder and shed blood in the earth. In other words, he would behave much like the brute creation with whom he seemed to share physical qualities. How could such a creature be the deputy of Allah in the world? What Adam now does at the command of Allah is to demonstrate to the angels that he has the mental capacity to gain conceptual and abstract knowledge, symbolized by the names, without which nature cannot be harnessed, technology cannot advance, and civilization cannot be created. Above all, without a concept forming intellect, moral distinctions cannot be made, and moral choice is not possible. The angels are convinced, after the demonstration of Adam's intellectual caliber, that he is capable of taqwa, God consciousness, and spiritual progress. He is thus in every way superior to the animal kingdom and thus fit to rule the earth. And we spoke about how the angel said, when Allah said, tell me the names of these big boys, and the angel said, we have no knowledge but what you have taught us. So back to the Quran, verse 33, Allah said, O Adam, inform them of their names. And when he had informed them of their names, he said to the angels, did I not tell you that I alone know the unseen of the heavens and the earth, and I know what you disclose, and I know what you have been hiding? It's an important verse. So after Allah taught Adam the ability to conceptualize abstract concepts and give them defined definitions, and the angels were not able to do it. So Allah then said, "Oh Adam, come here and instruct the angels, show them that you have more knowledge than them." So he told Adam, inform them of their names, meaning inform them of these definitions. And when he informed them of their names, meaning when Adam fulfilled the task, he said to the angels, did I not tell you that I alone know the unseen of the heavens and the earth? 3 verses back, Allah said, after the angels questioned him, surely I know what you do not know. So here is Allah, like double whammying it. He's saying, did I not tell you that I alone know the unseen of the heavens and the earth? And I know what you disclose and what you have been hiding. Meaning, as I mentioned, the angels don't have moral choice. Okay, whatever Allah tells them, they do. But of course, they are an intelligent creation. So whatever they have seen in the past, for example, the jinns' behavior on earth, they are able to remember that, and they can of course, do 2 plus 2. They're not stupid. They don't have free will. Whatever Allah has taught them, they know, and whatever they have experienced of knowledge, whatever they've experienced, whatever they've seen, observed, they remember that. Okay, so based on that, Allah says, I know what you disclose. You told me, you said to me that they will sow corruption in the earth and shed blood, and I know what you have been hiding. Meaning, this could be that the angels were doubtful of God's choice, and they were like, is he making the right choice? He already created jinn kind before and they were messing up. Is he making the right choice? So Allah is saying, Abba, main janta hu. I know what you are saying openly, and I also know what you are hiding. Let's see what he's trying to say. So the commentary of this verse, let's read it together. So the second essential condition for man's progress is the capacity to transmit his knowledge to those around him and to succeeding generations. So Adam not only was taught by Allah and he conceptualized those abstract concepts, but he also was able to communicate that to the angels. So knowledge has 2 parts. Gaining knowledge means understanding things, getting it 2 plus 2 in your mind, but then also transmitting that knowledge. Transmitting knowledge requires, communication. So even if you were to teach a horse the mathematics timetable or whatever, algebra, he would be unable to communicate that to fellow horses. He would be like, whatever horses do, right? So that's not really discernible speech. However, God, this is of course irrelevant right now, but God mentions later on in the Quran that all of the creations, all of the animals do communicate, and in the communication they're praising Allah and talking to amongst each other. But God says, you just don't understand what they're saying, so you claim that moo or beh is meaningless, but it is meaningful. Majority of the time, they're praising Allah. But yeah, so back to the commentary. It's 35 minutes past. Oh my God. The second essential condition for man's progress is the capacity to transmit his knowledge to those around him and to succeeding generations. When Adam informs the angels of the names, he demonstrates to them that he possesses a language. The knowledge needed by an animal is instinctively present in it and is, at the most, developed to a limited extent by association with others of its own species. Conceptual and abstract knowledge, on the other hand, has to be formally preserved and taught through the medium of language, including numbers. The angels have now been fully instructed in the ways of their Lord, and in particular the new direction which the creation of Allah, aka Adam and mankind, has taken by the installation of a favored new being upon the earth. But it is a reader of the Quran who is really being instructed through this condensed but powerful narrative. In this particular passage, a basic question is answered which arises in the minds of thinking people. Does the human race have a purpose, if any, upon this earth? Out of this arises a linked question which has also been dealt with here. What is the moral basis of human existence? The answer being the design of Allah for mankind, briefly introduced here, is elaborated in subsequent passages of the Quran. That was the commentary. Back to the Quran, verse 34. And we said to the angels, prostrate yourselves before Adam. And they prostrated themselves all except Iblis, Shaitan. He refused and he was proud, and thus he became one of those who are the kafirin, the disbelievers. So when the angels were told to prostrate before Adam as a sign of respect, a sign of gratitude towards Adam, and also because he clearly demonstrated to the angels that he knew something, meaning the knowledge of all things which the angels didn't know. So God is clearly saying that Adam is superior to the angels. Of course, number one, through the knowledge given to mankind which the angels don't have. Angels don't have the ability to conceptualize, have abstract knowledge. Whatever they have been taught, they retain, they remember. Whatever they have experienced, seen, heard, observed, they remember that and they can make inferences based on that. But they can't think abstractly, okay? Like our forefathers, they're sitting in the cave, they say, oh, piece of wood, oh, piece of wood. The thought comes to them, let's rub it together and behold a fire. Nobody told them this is how fire is made. They just, they thought, okay, what will happen if I do this, if I do friction, if I rub it together, I see a spark. Oh, it's a spark. Maybe it's warm. Let's keep rubbing it together. Oh, it's a fucking fire. So the angels cannot do that, okay? So that's why Allah said to the angels, prostrate yourself. The word used is sajda, literally like prostrate, how we prostrate to Allah, like masjid means a place of sajda. That's literally what it means. So, God favored mankind. He told the angels, who are superior in every single way, right? Literally, like they can cross the bounds of space and time. They aren't limited by gravity. They're not limited by death. They're not limited by the need to eat, fuck, shit, pee, right? We don't need these things. So they are technically, greater than us. But Allah is saying to them, prostrate before Adam. And they all prostrate except Iblis. Now, if Iblis or Azazel or Shaitan was an angel, like like the Christians and the Jews and other beliefs think, as I said, angels are pre-programmed. They can't refuse Allah's command. Once it's been given, they can express a concern saying, Allah, you sure Allah, should we do this? But eventually they will submit, right? But Shaitan, he refused. If he refused, he's not amongst the angel. It's 2 plus 2. It's very simple, okay? So he refused and he was proud. The word uses wastakbar, istikbar, that means to be arrogant, to be proud. No, I'm macho, oh, I'm big boy. And he was one of the unbelievers. Note how I mentioned how the great status Iblis was given. He was the caretaker of paradise. He was Allah's most devout servant, testified by God on that, and testified by the angels also. And now, just because he was proud once, Allah says he became a disbeliever. This is a very, very, very important thing. How many of us are proud in our daily lives? We for example, like I work at the hospital. There are some doctors there who are my attendings, who think that because Allah has given them knowledge, because all they do is fucking study, and because they have dedicated their lives to this profession, if they are able to diagnose things which us residents can't, they think they're big shots, right? They think they are curing the patients. They think, oh, I ordered that test, I ordered that treatment, I'm most knowledgeable. Papa, you have spent 50 years doing that. If you aren't able to do these things now, go kill yourself, okay? But anyway, yeah, so let's read the commentary for this verse first. It has a couple of lines. So the commentary goes, who is Iblis? Why did he rebel? What is his role in human affairs? And what are his powers and limitations? These questions arise naturally in our minds, but they should not be pressed too much. The real truth about Iblis and his interaction with mankind is known only to Allah. But the Quran gives enough information about Satan, aka Iblis, to broadly define his role and the obstruction that he represents in man's spiritual journey. The following points may be briefly noted here. Number 1. Iblis is the jinn who had worshipped Allah for a great period of time prior to his refusal to bow down before Adam. After his rebellion, he was expelled from paradise, whereupon he swore vengeance on the human race. You will come to the words very soon. Number 2 point. Iblis has associate devils, many of whom are corrupt men and women. A striking statement of this is in Surah 114, the very last chapter of the Quran. Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas, malikin nas, ilahin nas. So, Qul, we seek refuge in Allah, who is Rabbin nas, the Lord, cherished sustainer of mankind. Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas, like the Lord of mankind. Ilahin nas, the God of mankind. And Malikin Nas comes before, sorry, that means the king of mankind. Ilahin Nas means the God of mankind. Min sharril waswasil khannas, from the whispers of the whisperer who whispers and then receives. Okay, like the Arabic word says it in one word, min sharril waswasil khannas, from the evil of the whisperer who retreats after whispering. Allazi yuwaswisu fi sudurin nas, he who whispers into the hearts. The word uses sudur, okay? There's two words when Allah talks about the chest or the heart or intellect. He talks two words. Qulub, that means like the intellectual, the emotional but intellectual reasoning part of the human mind. Okay, that's the best way I can say it right now. I'm pretty sleepy. Okay, and sudur means like chest, like breast. That's what it means, like chest. Okay. So in this application, I began in the beginning when I said, Lord, expand my breast for me. So the word used, even when Moses used this word, he used sidri, derived from sudur, meaning like chest, like, narrowness of the chest wall, basically, right? And so yeah, finishing Surah Nas, min sharril waswasil khannas, allazi yuwaswisu fi sudurin nas, minal jinnati wan nas, meaning he has whisperers from amongst jinn and also mankind. So what I'm trying to prove is this point, that Iblis has associate devils from amongst jinn kind and corrupt men and women. And number 3 point in the commentary, Iblis can only succeed with those who are already inclined towards him. He has no power over the firm believers, and Allah will talk about this later on. Number 4 point, whatever Iblis and his forces do is with the permission of God. It's not that the Christians believe there's a force of evil, a force of good, and Satan is like fighting God and God is powerless against him. It's not like that, bro. It's Allah has given them Iblis free reign. Do whatever the frick you want, misguide whoever you want, and I will fill you and I will fill those who follow you in hellfire. So technically, Allah has granted him permission. We will see it now. We will see as Surah Al-Araf, which this entire narrative, this entire story of Adam and Eve has given a lot more detail. Like, Satan's entire argument, Satan's entire, his argument and whatever he said, is recorded in detail word to word. So that comes a lot later, probably like episode 100 or something, the way I'm going in the slow ass pace. But, inshallah, we'll get through that, okay? So, number 4, yeah, so whatever Iblis and his forces do is with the full permission of Allah and his full knowledge. And later on, as we'll see, on one occasion, I'm reading the commentary here, on one occasion he swears by the might of Allah. Note how ironic that he is swearing by the might of Allah. He recognizes Allah as the all-powerful Lord. Do we do that? No. So Satan is in some ways better than us. He at least believes in God, he recognizes God, and he knows everything can be done by the permission of Allah. So On one occasion, he swears by the might of Allah, reading the commentary, that he will lead astray the greater part of mankind. On another occasion, when the Muslims and unbelievers are confronting each other in battle, this is the Battle of Badr. It's happening in the second year of migration. After 13 years in Mecca, when the Muslims were persecuted, tortured, oppressed, they emigrated to Medina, where the Ansar, the locals of Medina, embraced them, took them in, became brothers. Second year of Prophet being in Medina, the unbelievers and the believers had a clash called the Battle of Badr. We'll get to it. Like Surah Baqarah, chronologically is revealed in the second year of the migration, right before the Battle of Badr. Not right before, I don't mean the day before, it means in the events leading up to it, okay? So, the last line of this commentary, of this verse, and on another occasion, when the Muslims and the unbelievers are confronting each other in battle, Iblis runs away from the field, declaring that he fears Allah and the punishment of Allah which is about to fall on his followers. And it did, right? The Battle of Badr was a clear-cut victory and humiliation for disbelievers. So, I think we should stop here. And the next verse will now talk about, we introduce Adam and Eve and the entire story of eating the forbidden fruit and whatever happened after that. We have crossed 45 minutes. I don't want to take more of your time. And because I will spend at least maybe one whole hour talking about what comes next for 3 verses. So, without further ado, thank you for all for listening to me. And, I hope, I hope I'm not crazy and what I'm saying is making sense. And I don't want anything from you guys. I'm doing this all for Allah. But if there are people out there who think that what I'm speaking is the truth, or they feel that I'm, on the right path, I need some encouragement. Sometimes I think, I'm going crazy, and maybe I'm going crazy, right? So if there are my bros and sisters out there who think that what I'm speaking is the truth and they feel like I'm talking logically, give me encouragement, so I can keep on doing this. I would appreciate that, okay? But yeah, so we will continue from verse 35 onwards, and we will talk about God telling Adam and Eve what you can do, what you cannot do, and then how Shaitan, aka Iblis, misguided them, tricked them, and then the expulsion from paradise, and then coming down to the earth. So we'll talk about that next episode, inshallah. So yeah, thank you for listening, and have a great day, and thank you all. Peace be upon you all.